Okay, thanks. So hi, very good evening to all of you, and thank you for tuning in today to have this discussion that we've planned out, which is on how to practice. I'm going to start off. I'm going to take a lot of questions very soon, but I'm going to start off with saying, so when we let's say when we're practicing, we're trying to practice to improve something. So there are two forms of practice. One is called block practice, and one is called random practice. So now when you're trying to make a swing change, and in whatever capacity it would be, we sort of start off with doing a block practice routine. Now that essentially means that let's say you line yourself up to a particular target, and you're again and again trying to just ensure that you get that one thing correct in your swing. It could be something like, let's say you're trying to work on your hinge, or you're trying to work on rotation, or you're trying to work on whatever XYZ thing. So whichever thing that you're working on, you sort of focus on doing that. Now, in block practice, the most important part to sort of note is that if you're trying to make a change, let's just take an instance or an example of that you're trying to hinge your wrist. Let's say you're trying to ensure that you ensure that you hinge your wrist at a particular point of time. Now, after every attempt that you make in every shot or every golf ball that you hit, you must ask yourself, did I manage to execute that? Did I manage to hinge my wrist? Because that's the one thing that you're trying to work on in your swing to make it better. And your focus should be purely on uh, that specific thing, that did I manage to hinge my wrist, irrespective of what the golf ball does. It's a matter of time when that starts, and when I say time, it means not a whole lot of time, but within, let's say, 20, 30, 40 golf balls after you hit them, you start understanding, okay, I am being able to do it, and it'll start becoming a part of your muscle routine. Um, Once, let's say, so now if I was to break down a practice session, let's say I'm going to be hitting about 200 golf balls on a particular practice session. So I break it up into block practice and random practice. So the block practice is when I'm trying to work on a particular thing. And then towards the end of my practice routine, let's say I pick up the last maybe 50, 60, 70 odd golf balls out of let's say 200. And I try to do random practice now with that. So random practice essentially means you start picking up different targets and different golf clubs in your bag and try to execute, the same thing that you just worked on. Now, the way I like to do this, and the way I like to teach is that, and I've seen a lot of success, and I'm saying that this is not just what I have seen or I have witnessed, but I have seen a lot of success when I was in the US, when I was in Florida at Gary Gilchrist Golf Academy. Over there, I saw so much success with a lot of drills being done. The more drills you do, and I think in one of my previous sessions, I'd also mentioned this. There's something called um, uh, that you sort of make it inherent. To make it inherent, you must do these drills. It helps you make a transition from not just implying what you're working on your golf swing, but off the ball. I call it off the ball and on the ball. So off the ball drills make it a lot easier for your muscles to sort of remember a pattern, and then it makes it easier to do it when you're on the golf ball. So I would say drills is something that we do in our practice routine whenever me and my students are working on something. And then of course, like I said, we move to random practice. So just to further talk about this. So if you take 200 golf balls and you've broken it down, let's say you take the last 70 golf balls and you're doing random practice. So what we do is, let's say we earmark a target and a shot shape. And then we try to see that, if you manage to successfully hit that particular target and that particular shot shape. Now, what I like to do is I like to turn and create like a scoring module when you're practicing. So what that means is, and I'll just break it down to the long game, short game, chipping and putting and everything, is that what I like to do is that you basically create a fairway on the driving range. So you earmark, let's say it could be between this tree and this pole, or this tree and this yardage board or something like that. And you say, okay, this is my fairway, and I want to try to move the ball, let's say left to right. So now when you're trying to do that, you ensure that you give yourself a score. So let's say you say, okay, if I'm in this zone, which is like right in the center zone, you're going to give yourself, let's say, 3 points. If you're on the outskirts of it, let's say on either side, you turn around and give yourself, it's 2 points for it. So try to give yourself a scoring medium, and you give, and this is between, you're basically trying to create a scoring mechanism for yourself. So you give yourself, let's say, scores. Let's say you turn around and say, okay, I'm going to hit 70 balls, I'm going to give myself scores on this with every, and you keep changing your clubs and everything. Now you see how successful you were. So you make a note of your score, and now you continue your practice routine in days to come. And let's say another week, 10 days down the line, you keep doing that scoring, and you will see gradually that score keeps improving for you as a player, and that is extremely encouraging for you. It helps you to successfully take the practice that you've done on the driving range to the golf course. And when you stand on the golf course, and that's at the end of the day, that's what the important part is. It, all the practice we're doing, you're trying to ensure that we play better golf on the golf course. So that will help you when you're there out on the golf course. You'll be able to visualize your shot better. You'll be able to successfully pull out that shot better. And somewhere it helps you develop confidence within yourself while you're practicing. I know I can do this on the golf course as well. It plays a huge part, and I've seen so much success with this. So yeah, I mean, I would sort of really encourage that. Having said that, so I'm moving in now into, let's say, the short game, and that's my favorite area for doing these scoring modules, because it's it's a lot of fun and it's extremely effective. So let's say we talk about on chipping green. So we do it. There are a couple of things that we do. One is, let's say, like so depending on the handicap of the player, whether it's a junior or it's somebody who's like a mid to high handicapper, then you take something like a hula hoop, and you place it on the green, and that, let's say, you earmark that as your landing zone. So your only thing you're scoring yourself on is whether you successfully manage to land the ball into that landing zone, because that's what you earmark that as, irrespective of what the ball does after that. So that's one, and you give yourself a score on that. Two that you can do is you can set up, let's say, a perimeter around particular, around some pin position. So let's say you take two alignment sticks, and you can put them, again, depending on the handicap, of the player. You can turn around and, let's say, put those two alignment sticks, let's say, about 3 feet apart, or you can put them 6 feet apart, or about 10 feet apart. So that becomes your range, and you're trying to ensure that you hit every ball in that. So again, you give yourself a score, and to make it, you can even make it more interesting. You can earmark and make, let's say, 2 zones. So let's say you do a 3 feet and you do a 6 feet. Then you give yourself, if you're outside 6 feet, so you get 0. If you're inside 6 feet, you get 1. If you're in the 3 feet zone, you get 2 points, and if you hold out, you can give yourself 5 points. So you create, again, a scoring mechanism for that, and again, you make a note of what you scored today. Then you keep practicing, and you keep scoring yourself, and again, you will see that in a matter of like a week or so, you'll find that your scores really improve. So again, it'll give you a lot of encouragement, knowing that, okay, what I'm doing, I'm being able to successfully get better at this. So that's one thing that you can. A couple of things you can do in chipping. You can do the same thing for the bunker. You can, again, own for yourself. For putting, again, you can sort of do the same thing with alignment sticks. You can put some alignment sticks across. Give yourself points for. You can try to create a long range putt. You can try to give yourself points for. Especially distance putting is something that you can drill with. That helps a lot. So it's really important to be able to learn how to take this change now to the golf course, and that, I think, is a big one for most golfers. Sometimes we manage to really do a great job on the driving range, and we feel great about it. But how do we take this change to the golf course? So first and foremost, the way we go about it is that we ensure that you never feel like a complete disconnect between your practice and the golf course. That means while you're practicing, we keep going to the golf course and trying to ensure that you stay comfortable with that on the golf course itself. Now, what that means is that at no point in time you turn around and take a month off the golf course. So by and large, every week, 10 days or so, every week we like to go to the golf course at least once or twice. And if I can't go to the golf course with my students, I ensure that those guys go out there. They fill like a sheet, which I think we've done last time. How you can turn around and fill a sheet. You fill in your data about how many fairways you hit and greens you hit, and helps you to sort of being able to trust your changes that you are doing on the driving range onto the golf course. So now I'm going to break down the golf course routine a little bit. So we do something called the think box. field box and play box. Again, this is something that I learned in the US. So again, very effective. That's why I'm sharing it with you. So the think box, field box, and play box. So breaking it down, the think box is, when you're standing on a particular shot, you're going to turn around and assess the situation that you're in. So whether, what kind of club you should hit, what is the wind condition like, what is the climate condition like, how is my lie, do I have a tree? So you basically, you take in all the information, you process the information, and you decide, okay, this is the particular shot that I'm going to hit, and this is the club that I'm going to hit it with. Great. Now you pick up that club and you take a step back, and then we call this the field box. So in the field box, if you're working on something, you do two things, which means that let's assume that you're working on a drill. So let's assume that I'm working on something which is like a loading drill, or let's say it's a hinge drill. So since we tried the whole thing with hinge, so let's say I'm going to stand, I'm going to turn around and say, okay, so this is my hinge. I want to show that I feel my hinge at this point in time. Okay, great. Now I'm going to stand. I'm going to take one swing. We're trying to literally feel the hinge because that's what I'm working on. Then I'm going to take a second practice swing where I'm going to turn around and do my whole routine. Take a full swing. Now I'm sure that I got the right feelings, because the only thing I'm asking myself when I'm doing the first part of the field box is that did I feel everything that I felt on the driving range? Because this is what I'm working on, and I must be able to feel it before I hit the shot. But once I felt it, that's why it's called the field box. Then I'm going to go back. I turn around and see my line, do everything, come to my routine, stand. Now when I'm standing on the ball, I don't want to think about anything. I'm going to trust the feeling that I have developed on the driving range to bring it out here onto the golf course and be able to effectively put it to use. So now when I'm standing on the balls, I'm going to just stand, look at the target, look back, and fire. So that's why it's important to sort of break it up into these three boxes. And otherwise, a lot of times when we're standing on the golf ball, there are just way too many thoughts in our head, and we have to remove those thoughts and ensure that those changes start becoming more and more inherent. Now, the more we're able to take practice to the golf course and get more and more comfortable with it, that is when eventually, when you're playing a pressure game or when you're playing a tournament round, you start getting more and more comfortable with it. The biggest thing I think that happens is that when we're not able to form that comfort with the changes that we made on the driving range, to be able to take it to the golf course. So I think this is like a pattern or routine that will really help. Let's say changes. So I'm going to share a couple of more examples that will help you process it. I'm just going to be back in a second with the golf club. So let's say you're working on something which is like on a pivot. So because I'm only talking because I've done this pivot thing before. So let's say you're sort of working on your pivot. So this is again how to take it to the golf course. I'm going to get into the second part. The first part is about how you can practice. So while I'm practicing, instead of mindlessly just picking up the ball, taking it, hitting another shot, and again hitting another shot. So this is what we do. We sort of break down the practice by let's say taking out 10 balls or something, 8 to 10 balls, and I'm trying to work on a pivot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand away from the ball. I'm going to take this club, put it on my chest, and I'm going to sort of work on my rotation back. I'm going to do this like a couple of times. Right. Now I'm going to do block practice with this. So after that, I'm going to take, like I said, I've taken out 8 balls or so. So I'm going to take, each ball. I'm going to take those 8 balls. I'm going to practice this exact feeling. So when I'm standing on the ball and I've hit my shot, after I hit my shot, the first thing I must ask myself is, was I successfully able to feel this rotation, irrespective of where this golf ball is gone? Whether it's gone where I wanted it to go, where I was aligned, or the kind of height I want to play. We don't want to feel that right now. So the only thing I'm trying to feel is, was I able to successfully feel this pivot? If I was successful in feeling this pivot, I've done my job. So I should give myself like a one-on-one, I should give myself like a whole point for that. So in these 10 balls that I've pulled out, if I manage to feel this, then I've done 10 on 10. If I haven't managed to feel it, then my next set of drills, I'm again running around doing these drills, and I'm feeling this, and then I'm going to take my next set of 10 golf balls and I'm going to ask myself the same question. So your orientation moves away from being because when you make some changes, sometimes it takes a little while for it to sort of settle down. So you want to take your focus away from what the ball is doing, what the result, what's the result of the golf ball, and you want to focus on am I doing the right thing? Am I sticking to my process? Am I sticking to what I need to do? And you give yourself points for that. When you give yourself points for that, then you're not result oriented for the golf ball, what it's doing, but you're result oriented for whether you were effectively able to do what you wanted to do. And that, to be honest, is extremely beneficial overall. It'll help you understand and make your practice better and put you into better routines. So yeah. I actually wanted to take on some questions. I felt like it'll be easier to have a more interactive session.
Yes, ma'am, I do understand that, but we don't have any questions right now.
Okay.
So we can wait for a while. If anyone has any questions, you can drop down.
Awesome. Um, I'm happy to sort of discuss it on another subject as well.
Um,
So another thing that I have seen and I've seen a lot of success with has been when I'm going to talk about some of the drills that you can do over and beyond how to practice some of the drills that you can do. So if you manage to, let's say, earmark, and you have to go to someone who's like a fitness expert, specifically for golf for this. But let's say you earmark, like I said, every human body has every anatomy's got some strengths and some weaknesses, and they vary from individual to individual. So let's say you earmark what is your area for improvement, something that let's say is your weakness, something that you can improve upon, and I can show you your fitness. Whoever your fitness instructor is will be able to give you a couple of drills that you can do, and there are fitness drills that you can do while you're practicing. It will again ensure that your muscles learn faster the new sequence that you're trying to teach it, and that is extremely beneficial overall as a practice routine. So, just to give you an example, um, somebody has, and I'm going to talk about rotation because I have spoken about this subject before. If somebody has got doesn't understand how to turn their body, I'm just going to bring the band and come back. So I say this is a band that I have. Okay, so this is a band that I have. So let's say I'm just going to put this into my shoe, into my left shoe, and now since I don't understand rotation, I'm going to hold this band up, okay, and I'm going to try to turn. So instead of let's say making it like an armsy swing, I want to show that I hold this band. I'm going to turn and then I'm going to reach out with both hands. If it's too tight, like this band is it's a tough band, so I'm going to sort of rotate. I want to show that I rotate, and then I'm going to just stretch out to reach over there. This is something that will help me. Now, if I can do this, and this is just a drill to ensure that the right muscles fire for me to achieve that. So if let's say I've done some work in the fitness in the fitness with the fitness team, and I worked on certain muscle limitations that I have, then how do you take the fitness with you to the golf when you're practicing? This is what you do. You turn around and as you take a band, you're not trying to create stamina, you're trying to activate the right muscles. So you turn around, stand, turn, and you stretch out. Chances are whatever muscle group that you're working on, it'll make it more effective. You'll be able to take this with you when you're even hitting golf balls. So it makes the whole routine much more effective, and your body understands faster, your muscles understand a whole lot faster. So that's another one that I felt like to share with you guys.
all right, ma'am, we have few questions, so I'll just read it out to them. Can you share your experience of pre-tournament practice?
Okay. So when you have a tournament approaching, there is a point of time, there's a window of opportunity that you have if you're working on some swing changes that you put them into effect. Now, when you're closing in on a tournament, which means let's say you got a couple of weeks left for the tournament, let's say a week, 10 days or so, it's extremely important to start being able to take all those changes that you've done onto the golf course. So, in my experience, has been that the more and more you play on the golf course, and the more and more you get comfortable on the golf course, especially close to a tournament, it's extremely important. So, for me, I would say the most effective way to do it is follow that routine of think box, feel box, play box. Especially if you're going through a transition, extremely important, very effective. The more and more you feel it, better it is. In fact, one of my students who recently played pretty well in a few tournaments as a professional golfer, he did exactly that. He had a very simple drill that he had to do, and he used to do that. He was told to do that in the middle of the golf course. Wherever he could find. All he did was find a slope because he was working on something. So he used to find a slope. He used to stand on an elevated slope like this, where it was like an uphill, and he had to take his club upside down and literally swing with trying to generate as much speed as he possibly could. And this was his routine during the tournament. So in the build up to that, we worked with this. So the last, at least the last week, 10 days before he went, he continued doing this drill on the course. I went with him on the golf course. We found how effective it was, whether it was actually helping him or not. As a drill, it was helping him. And since it was a pretty, the change in itself was pretty big, but this was a drill that was helping him, get the right feelings. So it's very important for a player to be able to get the right feelings, and for a coach to look at whether it's technically in the right slots, or it's giving you the right swing pattern that you're looking for. And as long as he had that feeling, he was sorted. So we tried to give him that feeling on the golf course again and again, and he played a couple of weeks of tournament golf doing exactly that. And like I said, he scored pretty well. So I think if you find something that works for you, and you can put that into your feel box, the thing that you do right before you execute your shot on in a round of golf, especially in a tournament, it'll help you a lot.
All right, ma'am, next question. Can you suggest a practice session for a 16-year-old boy who's a golfer and has decided to take golf as a career? So, how should he practice?
So there are two things. One is, I'm assuming he also has to put in some work on his golf swing. For a 15-year-old boy, I want to check exactly what, I'm not about chronological age, because 15-year-old is chronological. I want to check what his biological age right now is. But he's probably going to go through a growth spurt right now. So considering he's going through a growth spurt, he needs to work on multiple things in his, overall in his fitness. So if he wants to turn pro, this is a great time for him to work on his, work on, let's say, speed drills, work on, I think, some strength. Again, like I said, I'm happy to share that information with him. But if he checks what biological age window he's in, I think he's going to definitely, most probably, fall under most of these. He's going to fall under speed, stamina, and strength. And he must ensure that he does that, because that's going to take him a long way. Why I'm stressing on this is that if a youngster during their growth spurts goes through the correct windows, it makes their overall physical development a whole lot more effective. And this is research not done by me, research done by TPI, and they've gone through I don't know how many thousands of people, so they know what they're talking about. And if you do it the right age time, it ensures that your progress is a whole lot more. If you do it later, not impossible. You can do it later, but it's not going to be as effective. Right now, if you can do it in this much time frame, at a later age, you have to spend a whole lot more time and effort in ensuring that you achieve those attributes. And um, most importantly, if he's trying to turn pro, he's 15. He should try to be ready in the next few years. And for him, I would say, yeah, fitness definitely paramount for him right now. But over and beyond that, in his swing also, I would say he should do a lot of feel, so a lot of short game stuff. He should try to develop some speed with his golf swing, because right now it'd be a great time for him to add some mileage to his club head speed, and be able to effectively hit the ball much further, because eventually he wants to turn pro, and all the especially all the if you plan to play international, you plan to play PGA level and all, those guys are hitting it a mile. Like you have to be somewhere close in that range to be able to all sort of compete with them. So yeah, I would say your practice routine should be a lot of speed, a lot of strength in terms in your fitness regime, and yeah, I would say short game. He should contribute. He should kind of realize how many hours in a day he can put in, and designate certain number of hours to everything. Even I would say meditation would be something that would be very effective for him, because teenagers, it helps that you can calm down, how to know how to process information, how to think correctly in tournament golf. That will take him a long way.
All right, ma'am. Moving on to the next question. Uh, how should I practice at the driving range to become a better player?
So a lot of information that I shared today would really be beneficial for you. So okay, so let's assume that you are a professional golfer. You turn around, and once you've done your block practice, you turn around and make your random practice in such a way that your zone becomes smaller. Which means that, let's say, you turn around and earmark a fairway for yourself, which is, let's say, about maybe 30 yards wide, which is wide enough, or maybe make it 20 yards wide. If you're trying to really, let's say, be tight on yourself. But if, let's say, you're like a 16 handicapper, you want to make that fairway a little wider for yourself. You cannot give yourself, let's say, a 40-yard fairway. And you say, okay, this is my fairway, and I'm trying to hit this particular shot in this zone. If you land, and you can, like I said, you can turn around and make, so you can make a 40-yard fairway, and you can turn around and make a 30-yard fairway. If you hit it in the 30-yard fairway, you give yourself like an extra point. If you hit it in the 40-yard fairway, give yourself, say, 1 point less than that. And if you're out of that, then you don't give yourself points for that. So you turn around and make your practice effective. You start scoring yourself. So that's one that you can do on the driving range. With the short game, you can give yourself points for a landing zone. You can give yourself points for if you hit it to a particular distance. One thing that we do on the driving range is that for the short game is that I sort of set up a 18-hole circuit around the chipping green. Um, so that you're basically playing 18 holes of chip putt, and you give yourself, you score it out. So once you've done, let's say, the landing, and you've done the distance with the alignment sticks, you give yourself distance. You can say, okay, now I'm going to play this circuit, and they play those 18 holes, and everyone scores himself. After that, once you're done, and let's say you've scored out of 18 holes, let's say you're a 16 handicapper, and you manage to, let's say, shoot even like a 9 over that day. That's awesome, because that's going to turn around when you can take that to the golf course. The next time you'll be a whole lot more confident about your chipping and your putting. So that's how I would say you can practice, and the more scores you give yourself, and more importantly, when the scores start getting lower, they start getting better. If this more or high, whichever one is the higher side, it will you will start getting more and more confident about your process, your system, and it'll be a lot easier for you to trust it on the golf course. The main problem that a lot of us face is that we know we've done a great job on the driving range, but how do I trust this on the golf course? This is how you start developing that system of start being able to trust it onto the golf course.
All right. Moving on to the next question, ma'am. So, is the three box principle to be applied during practice as well? So, can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So absolutely, there's something that you can definitely do when you're practicing. So when you're doing, let's say, the random practice, then that's the time when you can put this into play. You can do the think box, field box, and play box. And definitely, when you're out on the golf course, you must turn on make this part of your routine. This should be something. It should be part of your pre-shot routine. I highly advise this. That you should have like a think box. Of course, we all do anyway. We all turn around and we assess. We want to see what kind of shot we want to hit. The field box and the play box is something that I don't know how many of you do, but if you try to inculcate that into your routine, it will help you.
All right. Ma'am, the next question. Is the orange whip trainer effective as a pre-round routine?
Is this right? Can you repeat that question?
Is the orange whip trainer effective as a pre-round routine?
Orange whip trainer.
Yeah,
Um,
orange whip.
I'm not sure what this person is talking about. The person can just elaborate a little bit. Is it like a device that person uses? What kind of
Uh,
device?
all right. Whoever has asked this question, we would request you to please elaborate on the question. Okay, moving on to the next question. Meanwhile, ma'am, is there any effective time slot that we can give to short game and long game? What what will be an ideal time slot for each of them, like as an aspirational golfer?
So I know a lot of coaches turn around and say that you should be short game, and I completely agree with you. I would say the scoring sort of comes from the short game, all right? Because on a day that you slightly off with your hitting, which means it from a 200-yard range, a couple of degrees off means that you can potentially miss the green or miss the fairway. So I would say short game is something that a lot of people ignore, especially a lot of club golfers don't focus on it enough. A lot of juniors don't focus on it enough. But the short game is something that you have to turn on and give a decent part of your time to. But further to that, if you're working on, let's say, a swing change, you're working on a full swing change. I would say you need to give it time, because if you don't put it into practice, how will you get better? So depending on, let's say you got 2 hours to practice, all right? Um, if you're working on, if you've got some intense work going on your long game, spend an hour or so, on your long game, on your full swing, and spend about at least an hour on your short game. If you otherwise are not really working on anything on your long game, your long game is pretty fine. You're not really working to, you've got no swing changes going on, then I would say, go maybe hit 50, 70, maybe 100 balls, definitely not more than that, and come and spend a whole lot more time, on the short game. If you have access to a golf course, then you can come, just do a little bit, hit a few full shots, hit a few do a little chipping, bunker, putting, and go out there and play 9 holes. The more and more you get comfortable onto the golf course, I think, the more and more you can, the more easier it is when you're playing a tournament round, or you're playing a competitive round. Um, I think, if I'm not wrong, even Indrajit shared that when he was practicing, he used to actually spend a lot of time on the golf course. He used to make, like, the golf courses, I think, practice. He used to take his practice to the golf course a lot. Like, every day he used to, I think, play 18 holes or something. So that is very effective. You have to be able to take it to the golf course. Don't just spend time on the driving range. The idea to spend time on the driving range is to, one, keep in touch with the game. Two, you're turning on, if you're working on a change, is to help you, definitely put that into play. But if you don't take this to the golf course, then somewhere you're going to start getting uncomfortable. So that's important. I would say you need to play a lot more as well.
All right. My next question.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on 100 yards practice?
It's pretty good. I think that's another zone that is very important, because in the 100 yards, if you're on the more accurate side, that's phenomenal. You probably drop your score down to a large extent. Um, I would say that was at least one of my highlights, was that inside 100 yards I was pretty good, and that helped me lower my score to a large extent. Like, I used to hit it pretty close from within 100 yards. When I used to go.
All right. Ma'am, next question. What are some of the gadgets any individual golfer should preferably use, keeping cost in view in regard to practice?
So, depending on what you're working on, could be something, as simple as, like I said, this band can turn around and be like, one of your best friends in terms of practicing. Um, it depends on what you're using, what your what swing team you're working on. Like I have a bunch of tools that I keep. I have a bag that I carry along when I go for lessons, with a bunch of training aids that I have with me. So one of them is that inflatable ball that you hold. And somebody, let's say, working on something specific, then they use that as a training aid. And you have another band that sort of holds your arms together. But again, it all depends on what you're literally working on. Some of these training aids are not expensive at all. Highly inexpensive. One of the aids that I have costs about 700-800 rupees. This band costs about something like that. So it doesn't have to be very expensive. In terms of gadgets, I would say that I know there are multiple schools of thoughts on this. I'm sharing with you how I feel about it. So data is very important and very helpful, but data all the time, I'm not sure how effective it is. If you're working on something, and like I said, if you're working on something, just stick to it. You can keep looking at the data in certain intervals. I would say that it's not important whether the data is, let's say, this is 1 degree up or down. It, I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but when I say that if your body understands the feeling, because eventually when you're out there on the golf course, you don't have any of those devices. You don't have like a TrackMan giving you numbers all the time. You have to eventually take the feeling with you to the golf course, and if you're successful in taking that feeling to the golf course, you'll be able to pull it off. So if the question is about technology, important, yes. Helpful, yes. Not required all the time. So don't make a huge investment in terms of getting a big gadget or device. You can get your data analyzed, every once in a while. But by and large, try to work on your feelings, because they'll only understand. You only take feelings with them, on the golf course.
All right. Ma'am, you discussed about 30 yards shots. So, how shall a golfer practice them? In what way?
30-yard
Practice
shot.
30-yard shots. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a great question. So let's assume you put yourself, around a practice game. 30 yards would depend on whether you're 30 yards with, let's say, only 5 yards away from the green, or let's say you're maybe 20 yards away from the green. Now, there's a difference in the two scenarios. So you can turn around and break those 30 yards up into, let's say, different things. So let's say I turn and say, okay, this spin position from just 5 yards off the green, and then I keep moving it. So now this is, let's say, 20. Let's say this is like 20 yards away from the green, and only 10 yards to play with. Now your choice of club will be dependent on that. Now how I would recommend you to do it. Let's say you turn around and take either a hula hoop, or like what I do is I just take a frisbee, depending on again your level of, how what your level of handicap is. So you take a frisbee, you can take a hula hoop, you put it down on the green, you turn around and ask yourself, okay, if I want to hit this shot effectively, where do I want this ball to land? And of course, first and foremost is for you to decide which club you're going to use. So let's say you've got only 5 yards and you've got 20 yards of green. So you're going to turn around and say, maybe take a pitching wedge or a 9 iron or a 7 iron, and I'm going to roll this ball up to the green. So you designate, okay, if this is what I'm going to do, the landing zone for me is here. So this is where you're hitting a ball from. This is where the green starts, and this is where the pin is. You want to, let's say, land it somewhere here. You mark that spot, and you put your either the frisbee down, you put a hula hoop down over there. Now your focus is on ensuring that are you hitting into that landing zone, and you can also see, okay, is the ball releasing, and if your choice of that landing zone was perfect. Now you move into the next phase of, so let's say you hit a bunch of 30, 40, 50 chips doing that. Now you tell yourself, okay, now I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to now look at how close am I being able to hit it with that. So you turn around and say, okay, am I being able to effectively hit it to, let's say, within 3 feet or 5 feet, like again, depending on your handicap. And ideally, obviously, the closer you are, the better. And then you keep changing it. So you do this process over all these chips, and after that, you can like play like a scoring thing yourself. So even from the same zones, now you're just running around being random. So you're gonna keep oscillating between these three zones, and you see, okay, what am I scoring from this? So that will be a great way for you to one put into effect how to chip better. So you're working on something in terms of the distance control landing zones, and after that you play a little game with yourself and you keep changing it and you give yourself a score, and then chances are you'll feel like you'll hit quite a few good chips and you'll feel good about it and you'll be able to take that with you to the golf course.
All right. Ma'am, moving on to the next question. How can we practice line in putting?
In fact, line inputting. That's a great question, actually. So there are a couple of ways to do it. How I like doing it is that so you can learn. There's some different systems out there. There's aim point and all. So those are some systems that work. But how I like doing it is so let's see you're starting off and you're trying to train yourself how to read lines. So what we do is that we take let's say knitting needles or just any two needles, long needles, and you tie a string to it, right? And you earmark the holes. I'm just going to draw this out. So let's assume that you guys can see.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's assume that this is the hole, okay, and this is the golf ball, and there is some curvature, all right. So I mean, let's assume that this is the curvature that this line sort of, it sort of goes this way. So you find the apex point, all right, and you put a string. You put the string. So it's more like I'm gonna redraw this. The hole and golf ball, okay, and you know that if I you turn and say, okay, if I sorry, I'm trying to draw a straight line. So I see turn around and say, okay, this is my apex point, and from here, this ball is going to go. I know it's going to turn. It's going to go into the hole. All right. So you draw. You take those two needles in the thread, and you turn around and make. You put one needle here, put one needle here, and you ensure that this thread is down this line. Okay, and a little further up actually, put one needle here, and you let's say what I do is I just take a bead and put it inside that string. So you come and you put that bead right here. You ensure that that bead is right there, all right, and you're trying to hit a speed where from this point it's going to start curving. So when you set this up, and you can try to set this up for yourself as well. It's pretty easy to do. So once you start off doing this, you'll find sometimes you might get it wrong, and then you readjust it and you start putting on that. That'll help you understand how the turn works, and it will also help you sort of train your eyes to understand where you need to line yourself and how you need to sort of trust that particular line so that you know it's going to break after that point. That is a pretty effective way to practice break putting.
All right. Ma'am, can you advise us how to keep practice notes?
Have you practice notes? Okay, so let's say, like I said, you can do a couple of things. One is that you can turn around and give yourself create yourself a scoring mechanism. So like I said, you can turn around and give yourself just create it's a very simple thing. Just create a table. Um, let's say you've got a table for landing. So you say, okay, today is whatever. Today, let's say whatever the date it is. You can just write the date. Um, you write the landing, and you can give yourself. So you can turn on basically create tables. So you write date, landing. You're gonna do distance. Please pardon my writing. It's terrible. And then you can do, let's say, third one, which is like the circuit. So you can turn around and write the circuit. So the circuit is basically you can set it up for 9 holes, you can set it up for 18 holes, whatever, whichever it is, and you give yourself points for that. If you want to keep a track of what the point system is, so you can turn and say, okay, for landing, you can, let's say, write within 6 feet, let's say 3 points, 3 feet is, let's say, okay, let's go 2 points, 3 points, and if you hole out you're going to give yourself 5 points. So now you can write your score. So let's say out of 10 balls that you've hit, you can turn and write your score, say, okay, hole one was 5. Or you can just go date wise and you remember out of 10 balls, you can just do the calculation towards the end. Let's say, okay, you had, I don't know, 30, you made 30 points today. So you just write 30 points over there and along with the date. And then you keep a track of this. So every maybe fourth day, fifth day, you give yourself points on this and you maintain this, and eventually you'll realize that how your scoring is getting better on this. You're getting more and more points on this, and it'll help you, feel better about your practice. I hope that helps you.
Ma'am, moving on to the next question. How important is yardage book in a tournament?
Very extremely important, especially I would say it's important at any level, but I say even more since playing professional golf. If you do not know, and I'm going to share this because I have this diagram from before, from one of my sessions before. If you do not know what yardage, what is your yardage, and you do not know what your fly yardage is, you can get into all sorts of trouble. So I shared this in my last session. So if you see this diagram, what this is a tee box. This is where your first landing zone is, which is at 250 yards. Then basically it narrows down. All right, this part gets narrow, you can see, and then it gets wide again at 280 yards. And of course, and this is a green. So assuming this is like a par 4 and it's a 400-yard par 4, you're absolutely fine and hit a shot where you're hitting it into this zone. You don't ideally want to be in a narrow zone because at a par 4 you're trying to be 2 on, right? And then if you're trying to be 2 on, and this particular zone gives you a nice opportunity, you're just going to have like 150 yards left for the green. You'd rather be here than turn around and try to attempt this zone. Let's assume that your driving distance is about 270 yards. At 270, you're in this zone. You're in this trouble zone, which is very narrow. A slight miss hit can turn around and put you into trouble this way, which is going to be a penalty, or can put you this way. And well, this is a bunker, but you would rather be on the fairway and have straight up easy shot versus being in a fairway bunker and trying to hit yourself. You might get stuck close to a lip or something. So you must be able to assess what the risk and reward factor is. So you land, put yourself in the zone, have an easy shot to the green, and walk away with it. This is how yardage book will really, really help you. It'll ensure that you don't make a mistake. The other part is when you're playing a tournament, in addition to the yardage book, you must be aware of what the wind conditions are, what the climate conditions are. Sometimes, if they, out of the blue, there's a rain situation that comes. You must factor in all of those when you're playing a tournament. It'll help you, save yourself from trouble and potentially, save a few shots every round of golf that you play, especially every tournament round that you play.
All right. Ma'am, someone has asked, there is a facility of simulator in our courses. So how to make best use of this?
Well, I mean, nothing beats on ground practice. Nothing beats on ground playing. But if simulator is all that you have, you can just practice routine doesn't really change. You can turn around and kind of do the same thing. You can play different yardages, you can play different golf courses. Some simulators have some pretty cool features in them where you can even set zone, you can set a scoring system. So and depending on what kind of simulator that you have in your facility, there's lots that you can do with it. At the end of the day, if you're making a change, the process doesn't change. It's the same thing. If you're trying to make a swing change, you try to do the same thing. um, you just have it's like a different place that you're around. If you're from Delhi and Delhi summers are something that can be extremely hot. In the middle of the day, you can probably get into a simulator, an air conditioning simulator, and put in some practice over there. Or it'll be the same practice routine, and nothing changes.
All right. Ma'am, then moving on to the next question. Uh, can you suggest some putting drills that can be done at home in this lockdown situation?
Yeah, I can. I mean, even if you just let's say have like a carpet setup or any sort of anything that you can sort of get putts on, I would say that you can. There's lots that you can do in terms of distance. You can again do the same thing. Put a zone and give yourself a score on that every day. Put let's say okay within this line and this line I'm going to have this score on this line, I'm going to have this score, and you can set it up at different distances. So you can give yourself like a 10-foot putt, and give yourself a 15-foot putt, and give a 20-foot putt. Of course, the green conditions will differ when you come back out there, but you'll have a sense. The idea is that what this drill will do, it will help you develop a sense of looking at a distance and then knowing how to hit. So it just changes your eyes and your senses, your feelings a lot better. Another thing that you can do is again, if you have a smooth surface, you can just take a golf ball and let's say to know that if let's say you're leaving the ball on line, you can make like a cross on that ball. You can just take any sort of like a sharpie or anything and create like a line like that, create like a cross, and see if you're being able to that ball is kind of leaving on line leaves online, you'll not see you just see it a very nice pattern kind of falling. And if it's you're not being able to leave it offline, you put landing up, putting a little bit of spin on the ball, then you see there's like the lines kind of start like rocking like that. So that's another effective way for you to know for sure if your stroke is intact. Um, yeah, those are two things that I can immediately think of that will help you with your putting, especially during this time.
All right. Ma'am, should pitching practice include holing out?
Absolutely, give yourself extra points for that. If you can, like I said, you can create a table and you can give yourself points for every sort of this thing. So let's say you create, like I said, please pardon my my handwriting, but you can create a system where you can say okay 6 feet, 3 feet, and if you hold out, you can even give yourself 10 points on that. But just keep the scoring system the same over time, and the more holdouts you have, I mean that's awesome. I would say most professional golfers, when they're standing on a chip, they're not thinking of hitting it close, they're thinking of holding them out. And the more you have that as a mentality, you should keep trying it. You should not be thinking about just hitting it close. Because if I'm thinking about just hitting it within 3 feet, then well, sometimes I hit it 2, 3 feet, and sometimes I hit it to 6 feet. But if I'm thinking of holding out, if I don't hold out, chances I'll be somewhere around the 3 feet line, 3 feet margin. So practicing thinking you holding out is awesome. And like I said, give yourself extra points for that. So you can make it 5 points, you can make it 10 points for every time you hold out, and keep a track of that.
All right. Ma'am, we have one last question.
Yeah.
Can you suggest some broad drills to be included in a practice session for short game and putting? I mean, only for short games aspect of it.
Some broad drills.
Yeah.
Um, So over and above what I have suggested, which is this is of course scoring, the stuff that you can do for short game for chipping. I personally like doing like a one hand drill. So you can do this both sides. You can go left hand, right hand. So you just kind of take the club in one hand, put one hand on your shoulder, and try to make some chips. I do the same thing with the right hand. Again, put this hand on the shoulder and try to make some chips. And try to do it with both hands. That's a pretty effective drill for me. Um, also, I like doing a lot of drills which is like right foot back. Again, something I mentioned in my last session, the first session that I did, was that the right foot back drill is extremely effective, especially for chipping. It ensures that your lower body doesn't get excessively active because in chipping the kinematic sequence is completely different to what it is for the long game. So don't want your lower body to be extremely active in chipping. Just put your right foot back and set yourself up and just try to hit some chips. All three of these drills will really help. I mean, sort of really help anyone with their chipping for sure.
All right. So, ma'am, there's a query.
Yeah.
The person who had asked, should pitching practice include holding out?
Yeah.
He has added now, by hole out I meant that if the ball hasn't gone in, should I also put it in?
Yeah, I mean, what you can do is you can create a circuit for yourself. So you can break down your chipping and putting into different zones, and then you can, towards the end, you can turn and create like a circuit or like a, let's say, a mini course for yourself. So what I mean by that is you can turn around, create, let's say, you can create one game. It's like, think of all of them as different games. You can create one game for yourself where you're going to call it like a landing zone game. So you give yourself points every time you landed in a particular zone, and you can make that zone. You can make it again 2 zones. You can make it 6 feet. You make like a circle 6 feet. Make a circle 3 feet. So ask yourself, and make one circle even smaller, like 2 feet, depending again on what your handicap is. So, and then every time you hit it into a short, to the smaller zone, you give yourself more points. Then you do another one where you give yourself points for distance, and then you create a third one where you make it into different holes. So let's say you can set up like a 9 hole course for yourself, just chip part. So yeah, in that, please hole out, because you can write yourself a score on that. That okay, today I played these 9 holes, and I scored whatever 4 over par. And then the next time you play, you realize maybe 2-3 days down the line, you realize that okay, today I played the same circuit, and I'm only 2 over par. And hopefully, eventually, start being able to play, anything being par 1-2 over, and that's how you improve your chipping putting overall. But how does it help to include the first two? Is because the first two will actually help you score better, because now you're focusing on two different things. You're focusing one on where to land the ball, because that must be crystal clear in your when you're standing behind a shot. You should be able to see the shot play out completely. So when you're standing, you visualize that particular shot and you're saying, okay, I want to hit this shot. I want to land it here. It's going to release so much with this club that I have chosen, and it's going to release so much, and it's going to go into the hole, and I see the line and I see everything. And then you come back and you've practiced a landing part and you practiced a distance part, and now when you finally play the circuit or the 9 holes or 18 holes that you designed for yourself, so then you say, okay, now you're putting all those practices into a final thing which you're going to take to the golf course, and that is how it will help you to do the whole process. And of course, in that, yeah, you need to pull out. I hope that helps you.
Hopefully, ma'am. All right, ma'am, we don't have any more questions.
Okay.
Yeah, even from YouTube, we don't have any more questions. So you can continue, and whatever summarize you can.
Um, okay. So I've kind of sort of covered everything that I was planning to cover today, but I'm happy to take on any more questions if anyone feels also like they have any more questions that even come up at a later point of time. Please feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to me either on my mobile, or you can reach out to me on Instagram. I usually answer within a couple of hours. So yeah, please feel free to reach out. I hope everything that I shared with you today was beneficial, and it will help you improve your practice routine, and eventually help you to be able to take your changes with you to the golf course. And I want to thank you all for your time, because it's always fun to sort of be a part of the CFL training. So thank you all for your time.